गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमिश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पतान शृण्वन्नोतिभिस्सेदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेधर्वाजिनीवती धेनापवित्रजवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् तच्छञ्जोरावृणीमहे गातुं यज्ञाय गातुं यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वञ्जिगातु भेषजं शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदे शं चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्री साईश्वराय नमः हरिः ओम् अग्निश्च मयिन्द्रश्च मे सोमश्च मजिन्द्रश्च मे सविता च मजिन्द्रश्च मे सरस्वती च मजिन्द्रश्च मे पूषा च मजिन्द्रश्च मे बृहस्पतिश्च मजिन्द्रश्च मे मित्रश्च मजिन्द्रश्च मे वरुणश्च मजिन्द्रश्च मे त्वष्टा च मजिन्द्रश्च मे धाता च मजिन्द्रश्च मे विष्णुश्च मजिन्द्रश्च मेऽश्विनौ च मजिन्द्रश्च मे मरुतश्च मजिन्द्रश्च मे विश्वे च मे देवा इन्द्रश्च मे पृथिवी च मजिन्द्रश्च मे अन्तरिक्षं च मजिन्द्रश्च मे द्यौश्च इन्द्रश्च मे दिशश्च मजिन्द्रश्च मे मूर्धा च मजिन्द्रश्च मे प्रजापतिश्च इन्द्रश्च मे अगुंसुश्च मे रश्मिश्च मे दागाभ्यश्च मे धिपतिश्च मवुपागुंसुश्च मे अन्तर्यामश्च म ऐन्द्रवायवश्च मे मैत्रावरुणश्च म आश्विनश्च मे प्रतिप्रस्थानश्च मे शुक्रश्च मे मन्थी च म आग्रयणश्च मे वैश्वदेवश्च मे ध्रुवश्च मे वैश्वानरश्च मरुतुग्रहाश्च मे अति ग्राह्यागाश्च म ऐन्द्राग्निश्च मे वैश्वदेवश्च मे मरुत्वतीयागाश्च मे माहेन्द्रश्च म आदित्यश्च मे सावित्रश्च मे सारस्वतश्च मे पौष्णश्च मे पात्नीवतश्च मे हादियो जनश्च मे युध्मश्च मे बर्हिश्च मे वेदिश्च मे धिष्णियाश्च मे श्रुतश्च मे चमसाश्च मे ग्रावाणश्च मे स्वरवश्च मवुपरवाश्च मे धिषवणे च मे द्रोणकलशश्च मे वायव्यानि च मे पूतभृच्च म आधवनीयश्च म आग्नेयेध्रं च मे खबिर्धानं च मे गृहाश्च मे सदश्च मे पुरोडाशागाश्च मे पचताश्च मे अवबृधश्च मे स्वगाकारश्च मे ॐ शान्ति Shanti, Shanti. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahavidyam Karavavahai. तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Let us all be together. Let us all be nourished together. Let us all work together with great vigor. May our studies shine and illumine our intellects. May we not hate each other. Let there be peace, peace, and peace. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hari Om, Shalom, Sai Ram, Namaste. We are studying the 8th Advakam of Chamakam Prashna, wherein there is invocation to be blessed with all different types of materials and the process associated with Yajna. And what does this Yajna mean? How do we participate in this Yajna? We have gone through this elaboratedly last week. Is Kotu online?
Sai Ramande.
Yeah. Can you please bring up or read what we were doing yesterday in study circle, please?
Okay, just give me a few seconds.
In the context of doing this Yajna, Yajna fundamentally is an action. When we understand the word action, we are only aware of the word action in the context of physically doing something. Physical manifestation of a thought is generally understood as an action. Then you look at people like Bhagavan Ramana, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, you read their lives, or even Bhagavan Satya Sai Baba. Are they physically doing action all the time? You look at Bhagavan Ramana, he is constantly sitting and with complete stillness looking at something. You think he is doing physically action? No, this doesn't mean that who needs to physically be doing action, refrain from action. That is not the point of this. Don't try to, let us not even remotely try to even emulate or imitate, even worse, the great souls. That is not the point of it. We can never be that, at least in the context of this body, which is constantly engaged in the context of movement associated with earning a livelihood and all of that stuff. Let me know when you're ready, sir. And when we are looking at this particular Anuvakam here, last week, there are number of materials that we went through that are required for doing the yajna. Yadma is the sticks or samit that we offer in the yajna for fuel. And when we do the yajna, you actually invoke and you worship every single material that is used for this yajna. You take a bundle of sticks and you tie them up and you worship with them with mantras. And then you actually have the darbha grass, the barhi, which is very important part of the yajna. Then you use that to place it around the yajna kunda in specific ways, in specific directions, and in specific mantras. Then the Yajna Vedika, where the fire is set up, you actually have to set it up with bricks, and then it has certain aspects of worship associated with all the different aspects of this Vedi that is used for the Yajna. Then you also have the Acharya, and you have a Brahma who is seated next to this Yajna Vedika, who is worshipped as the person who is the Brahma of the Yajna, the Hishniya. Then there is the Suruk and the Sruva, and you worship those for using in the Yajna. Then you have the vessels, different types of vessels, Panchapatra. Okay, all different types of vessels that are used for the Yajna. Then there is this gravanaha, the stones that are used specifically for preparing the materials associated with the yajna. Then there are the wooden knives that are made by people. And in Kerala, every few years there is a Atiratra yajna that is done. And I have watched some videos, YouTube videos, where they actually for years and years they make everything that is utilized for the yajna. Then there is a uparava, there is a pit that is dug, and there is a hand press that is used, and then drona kalasha, mud pot.
Sairam and Pamichan, I sent that.
Okay. You put it where, Sarama, in the chat?
In the chat.
Okay. So when we are looking at all this process, all this is materials and the process specifically used for all this yajna. And last time we went through this. How does this relate to the yajna that is happening within us? Why do we have to do all this stuff? No, that's the fundamental question. Why are we doing all this process of yajna? And this quote that we are studying as part of Happiness is Union with God series in Satyasai Center study circles. Bhagavan described what happiness is in one of the quotes. This is not the essence of happiness, but in the context of what we are looking at as yajna. Our actions should be such that they bring happiness to ourselves as well as others. First of all, we have to inquire what true happiness is and what is sorrow. People think that happiness lies in eating to fill and having a sound sleep. That is no happiness at all. Happiness lies in working hard and serving society. We can experience peace and happiness only when we help the poor and the needy. Today, nobody wants difficulties. Everybody aspires for happiness. Where is happiness? It is everywhere. We should earn the deservedness to experience it. The engagement in actions that bring happiness to ourselves as well as for others is yajna. I remember when we were in Badrinath for doing the yajna, one evening Dikshit Mama and we were talking about what yajna was and what he said very beautifully the very first day standing in that spectacular yajna that was constructed at 11,000 feet altitude. And then he looks at me and he says, "Sir, when we do yajna, not first the entire village should be happy, sir. Then the whole universe will be happy." We are not doing yajna just to appease some kind of a purpose fulfilled. And this yajna that is happening, it starts with fundamentally the material that is required to create the fire within you. The fire has to burn. If the fire is not burning, there is no yajna. And to burn this fire, you require material and the passion associated with burning something. And what is it that we are burning in the process? This process of doing that, the Vedi, what is required for doing this, I hope you all understand that when we're talking about these collective prayers that are being done daily, it's not that any individual cannot just go do, or many people actually do their daily prayers, etc. But when it is inspired by a collective purpose, then it inspires you to be part of that, and that naturally creates the motivation to do something. Because individuals, as individuals, we are constantly getting rusted and dusted by our own daily trifles. And then what happens? Okay, I will do this prayer when I have time. But when it is part of something and then there are other people that are like-minded, then it is a Vedi. Then you are doing the yajna with collectively people that are sitting around the yajna, not just you putting some home kunda and then pouring ghee and everything. That is not called yajna, that is called Agnihotram. There are people around you. They are all also offering together into this Homakunda, the Vedi. an action that inspires the self and also those people that are like-minded to burn the passion and the instincts of thoughts that are associated with collective goodness of and happiness of yourself and others. This is yajna. And this is coming from the supreme preceptor, who by model has done this as an example to look at. And that is Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. The one who said Grama Seva is more important than Rama Seva, or Grama Seva is Rama Seva. Or a Vivekananda who said Manava Sevaye Madhava Seva, worship of service to man is service to God. Then you use your hands for service, the Sruk and the Sruva. Ekam, Dve, Trini, Chatvari. With one you take and you keep emptying, keep pouring. This is what you're doing. Ekam, Dve, Trini, Chatvari. Doing this yajna. One thought is coming to give, immediately it is done with both the hands, not even letting it get into the head. Then as you empty, it gets filled and filled and filled. Yesterday we were talking about why do you feel happy when you do service? Why do you feel happy when you do service? It's not important that you understand why you feel happy. But for those that are serving constantly, it's like an addiction. I can assure you, it is an addiction. And it is actually grace. The thought of giving is a grace. But here's the thing. The gratefulness is not for one who is giving. The gratefulness is for the one who is actually receiving. Because by dharma, the one who receives absolutely has to give back what is given 10 times more. And therefore, in every yajna, you do this danam, dashadana, 10 different types of dana. And you are grateful to the person receiving it. And you give something to the person and you say, thank you for accepting it. What happens if there is no taker and taker of all of this? Then it's getting rotted. Just simply materialistically speaking, Bhagavan says there are three things, if that are not in circulation, will become useless. One is food, the second is blood, and the third is duddu, which is money. Food, blood, duddu. Swami says duddu is a Telugu word, which means money. All these things cannot be accumulated. They have to be given. And then doing this obviously is associated with difficulties. The hurdles. But the process of doing is so powerful that after it is done, the hurdles, the biggest hurdle is when there is an inspiration to do something immediately you will see perspiration around it. Same within family, within circle, within society. God, how many difficulties come together. But then when you actually put away this thing that it is not this ego, self that is doing, that is gravana. Are you all with me in this? Then we went through the context of speech, the context of uparava, that is below the sound, which is the silence. And Sairam, I can only tell you this now. It absolutely is the evidence, nothing more than that. Last night after the Ekadash Rudra Parayanam in the evening, sorry, that's why my voice is. The voice, Swara, Uparava. This is silence. The one who is doing this yajna, one of the fundamental principles of those that perform yajna is to observe the spiritual silence, Uparava. When there is, even in the context of doing service or charity, it is very clearly described in the Shastras that if you declare it, you lose it. Why you lose it? What's the big deal, sir? I did service and therefore I am declaring it. And all this stuff that we see in the context of donations and money and raised and having people inscribe their names on plaques and golden letters in all these places. I will tell you, the fundamental inspiration for me with Bhagavan, or to many, not just me, millions of people, is how much incredible work is done with in complete silence.
I have a
And
question.
then, yes, please.
So I'm not talking, I don't know, let me put in the right words. When somebody is doing service, deeply somewhere I know it is going to come back to me in return. So in somehow I am expecting something, right? Is it not selfishness?
Yes, it is selfishness. Why do you have to pay attention to what is coming back? You don't even know when.
I don't need to know, right? But still I have that feeling it is going to
No,
come back.
why? No, the point what we are trying to say, I'm trying to say is,
Mm.
When it is a given thing, why do you need to feel about it? That is ego again. If you feel, oh, I'm doing this because I know I'm getting 10 times more return on it.
Maybe not for me, for my kids or something. We say in that context, right?
Yeah. So first and foremost, let's kind of peel the onion here.
Yeah.
Is it wrong that I'm doing something because I'm expecting that my family, my people, everything, my children, everybody are safe? No, it is not wrong. But it is something that you're doing in return, in an expectation. It will come back to you, whatever. It is not wrong. You're doing a good thing. I'm not trying to judge. Again, over and over, I keep saying this, right? I'm not judging. This is good, this is bad. If you don't do this, you feel guilty. Or if you do the service with the expectation of return, you should feel guilty. No, nothing like that. Just simply give. Even in the context of getting some return on tax benefit or some benefit, whatever, give. Give is the first fundamental thing. Don't stop giving. But what is the next? What in the context of what we're talking as a yajna, a sacrifice in action, is the one which is done without any intent of return, but on the top of it, gratefulness to the person that actually has received it. Gratefulness. That is what we are calling as yajna. The one that you give charity with expectation. There are different names and terms. There is dana, there is dharma, there is yaga, there is yajna. There are all these different acts that are simply giving, but in the context of what is dana, what is dharma, what is yaga, what is yajna, all these things are associated with various levels of intent of the human ego. But they are all giving. And please do give. Even for the safety of your children or some benefit, please do give. And it will have a benefit, not maybe knowing right now. Every action with an intent has 100% a reaction. This is simple law of physics. Nobody can deny it. Nobody can deny it. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. But in the context of an action without any intent associated with it of result, that is what is we are defining and trying to understand as yajna. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So now don't fall into this trap and strangle yourself and try to overanalyze it and all. But the simplest yajna that we're trying to do is what is the intent with which some thought has moved. That is even the most deepest level of yajna, not physical charity that we're service that we are talking about. Drona Kalasha Adhi Shavana. Yes. Are there any other questions? Because I want to make sure that this part that we are talking about as the materials for the yajna is it becoming clear what is happening in the inner yajna, what is happening in the outer yajna.
A small doubt, Shekhar Gar. In olden times, it was yajna done by rishis and those ritviks and all that Ashwamedh, that type of yajna. In this Kali Yuga, how can we take this yajna as sacrifice? Or somebody asked me a question. So how can we define this related to that yajna, this yajna in Kali Yuga?
So the the question is that which is done by only people that have austerity and purity and all of that is yajna. And in this Kali Yuga, oh, these human mortals, what they do, is this truly yajna? That's the question.
Yes.
Yeah. So who is a Rishi, who is a Muni?
Yeah, I mean,
And the question is actually, are there Rishis and Munis in Kali Yuga? That is the question actually, no?
no, that's what this what
No,
can,
I'm
how can
trying.
we take this yajna in this Kali Yuga? See, in Gita also it comes in many chapters, in 9th chapter and all. So how can we take this yajna as in Kali Yuga? The meaning related to this yajna, how can people understand better, like when we explain?
Again, I'm trying to clarify. I'm not focusing on the yajna that the Rishis and the Munis have done with the Drona Kalasha, Dhishravana, all those things. Those type of yajnas, I agree that it is impossible. How many people have the time even to, can you imagine the context of what now people look back at some of the yajnas and some of the things that Dikshit Mama has put for observation for spiritual discipline 120 days or 90 days before a yajna that we used to lay out what are all the things that people should do before they come and participate as a Rutvik. And for those that participated in this yajna, when they listen to this, now they really understand every one of them, the most simplest thing, from having sattvic food to not watching TV, and even brahmacharya for 90 to 120 days, doing Gayatri Japam at least 180 times, spiritual silence, observation of that. When for every Atirudra Yajna that was done, this is what the Ritvik was supposed to do and come for the Yajna. This is what we did for every Atirudra Yajna, Eritrudrama Yajna that was performed under the auspices of Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba's inspiration and guidance of Nanjunda Dikshit ji. See, in that question, there are two kinds of things. Therefore, what is being done right now is not a yajna. How can we call this yajna? That's one aspect of it. And you can never answer that question unless you actually are part of it. So let's leave it aside. The second part of it is the actual yajna that we are talking about is the yajna associated with the actions and watching the thoughts and the instincts and continuously burning those that are associated with the movement of the ego self. This yajna that I'm talking about is the real yajna. And that real yajna is not time bound. It's not that only, yes, the number of people that do that have declined significantly, but the aspect of actually doing it can be done independent of any time. There is no Kruta Yuga, Kali Yuga, this Yuga, that Yuga. Just pay attention to what is being done as the Yajna. The human mind and the ego associated with the movement of thought and action, impelled by the ego, self in selfishness, is happening in Kali Yuga, had happened in Kruta Yuga. But those incidents were very rare. And therefore, so-called establishment of dharma was just very simply taking care of some misaction associated with a few individuals. But this Kali Yuga, the good and the bad and the devil and the God are absolutely inside one individual. Therefore, the context of doing this Antar Yajna is much more relevant today than Kruta Yuga. Is that bringing into context, ma?
Thank you, Sekhar Garu.
No, don't simply. But are you looking at the same thing, or are you?
No. I was focusing on the same thing, but I wanted to know whether my explanation was accurate or not. So I wanted to just clarify. Somebody asked, my student asked me a doubt. So I was just focusing on this point, but just I wanted to ask you and just confirm it, sir. Thank you.
Yes. And this yajna that we are talking about is not associated with a Hindu rishi, Hindu muni, Hindu god, Hindu this, Hindu that. There are incredible saints and seers in every faith. The greatest Sufis and the sheikhs and the sultans in Islam, to the messiahs and the enlightened ones in Buddhism. Every single religion focuses on this only. Not just only Brahmins can do this yajna, only Hindus can do this yajna, only these people that have these qualifications. The fundamental qualification is the passion to actually bring peace and happiness to the whole universe. That's where it starts. And the process of burning every single thought and the moment, action associated with the ego self, and doing it not only individually but collectively, and then bringing that in the context of benefit to the whole universe, so that you shall collectively get illumined.
Beautiful, Sekhar Garu. Thank you so much.
Sai Ram, Sai Ram. Vayavya. Next time, Vayavya nichame, Puta bhuchama, Adhavaniyashchama, Agni dhranchame. Vayavya. These are Vayavya, Puta bhut, Adhavaniya, are three different types of vessels used in yajna. Vayavya are the vessels that are in the shape of mortars. Puta bhrut is the mud vessel, and Adhavaniya is the mixing bowl. Vayavya also means through service you expand yourself. Why you expand yourself through service? Because When you notice the pain and suffering of somebody else, when you relate to it, you automatically have expanded beyond your own ego self, because you're now able to connect to something that is outside of you. That is expansion. Vayavya. And this is happening in Bhutabhrut, in this mud vessel, so-called the body, which is filled with this compassion now that is moving inside. That is what is filling. So what is Mrunmaya, full of mud, has now taken this awareness of compassion, and that is Chinmaya. All of this is now mixed in the context of churning that happens, mixing bowl. Agni Dharam. This mixing creates the fire. And when the fire is created, Agni Dham, in the context of doing a yajna, it is not created by using a matchstick or artificial fire. That fire is naturally produced. It's produced by conflict, churning. It's produced also by focusing the heat of the sunlight. Then another great soul in my life that was a phenomenal person was Gajanan Joshi ji from Sanatana Dharma Kendra. And when I was talking about producing fire through sunlight, whenever we did the Homa at Sanatana Dharma Kendra, he would come out with me with a lens, and then he will focus the lens on the material of the yajna and then create fire. This great man who lived in America for more than 40 years, or more close to that, I don't know exactly, but decades, never spoke a word of English in his entire time of presence in America. Either spoke Konkani or Kannada, only Indian languages. Are they rishis? Is Nanjunda Dikshit a rishi? Of course he is. Is a Gajanan Joshi a rishi? Of course he is. Amazing, amazing people. It's God's grace that God makes you associate with this kind of people during part of your life. For that, you have to be so grateful. So this Agni Dham is the fire that is produced by invoking complete focus of laser intensity of the intellect that will now spark the fire within you, or by constant churning, Kshira Sagara Madhanam, that's happening within you. The first one using the sunlight is the yogic fire. Through yoga, through meditation, you invoke this fire. You read in the books that after the darshan of Sri Rama, Sharabhanga, Sutikshna, who have been meditating for thousands of years to have the darshan of this beautiful Sri Rama. Right after his darshan, they invoke the yogic fire and offer themselves into that fire. So the second type of fire is also happening by this churning, and let that fire inspire and fire all the aspects of this, what we are calling as Havirdhanam. Havihi, Adhanam means the place where all the havis are stored. The process of this is all coming through Griha. All of this now we're talking about what the words sound so much relatable because these are all the things, Havardhanam, a place where we store the havis. Griha is, what is Griha? Hello, what is Griha?
Home.
House.
House, home. Okay, what's the difference?
Home is where you live. Yeah.
House is where you live, and home is?
Where you make it a home with you. You make it yours. That's not house. That is home. House is for anybody. Home is for you. You make it yours with your own.
Okay, is Griha home or house?
Gruha is house.
What is home?
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, Gruha is also home. Yes. 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 So, I don't, it's like I'm not comfortable in somebody else's home, but it is my home. There I feel most comfortable. So that I would call as home. Other ones are houses. So that's how I see it.
Okay, Kumar, what is a house and a home?
What sister said is correct, because houses, we call them neighbor house. And when I refer to myself, it is my home. Both, even though both are houses. That's what I'm interpreting, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're both right. House is just a place of living. And home is a place where you feel comfortable in being present. That's why you say when somebody visits you, feel it like it is your home. You don't say, welcome to my house. Say, welcome to my home. Feel it like that is yours. Is the body in which the self is residing right now, is it a house or a home?
It should be home, not a house. If I'm comfortable with myself in my body, then it is a home.
Home implies attachment, whereas a house does not imply attachment.
Beautiful. So is the body for the self a home or a house?
Sairam, it's home.
For most of us, it's a home, but it ought to be a house.
Sairam, it's home because Adeho Devalaya Prokta. So must be home.
Okay, who is speaking? Saram, I didn't connect to. I know that I can connect to the voices most of the time. Who spoke?
I'm Uma.
Oh,
Uma from
Sundar. Oh, Uma from Bangalore. Okay. Deho,
Devalaya
Devalaya,
Prokta.
Hmm.
So because our body is a temple, actually it should be a home only.
Hmm. If you have a home,
Maintain it, yeah, maintain it as a temple.
yeah. How beautiful this satsang is, very simple things like a house and a home. Now we are talking a temple. That is neither a home nor a house, but it's a different place. So a temple is a place, is there where you stay, or is there a place of worship, or both? In this case, in this body's case, the guy behind, this is his place, and this body is simply living in a place where he resides.
It's a temporary abode. So actually, we are worshipping that for a temporary aspect of that term, tenure.
Think about it. Think about the guy who is inside you, or gal who is inside you, or that which is inside you. It has no gender, anything associated with it. And now we're describing this body as a house, as a home, as a temple. Oh God, and I'm glad nobody else said a hotel, a motel, or something like that. But on a serious note, Gruha is very simply a place of residing temporarily. And these priests that conduct the yajna, in the context of this conducting this yajna, they have temporary places of residence, and they are not supposed to move from that place during that yajna and be part of that particular place where the yajna is conducted temporarily. Gruha, therefore, is a temporary place of residence. Yeah, what is Satish saying? What, yes, if people are typing in chat. Please speak up if you have something significant to contribute to. I think the chat is something that thought process, or where your heart is happiness. What is that to do with that, brother? Can you please elaborate? Does Satish pop up?
Sairam.
I love the echo of Sairam.
Sairam Shakalbhai, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my mobile is making so much of noise, so I'm using my wife's iPad. What I meant was the home is where your happiness is, where your heart is, and the heart is where the Ishvara lives. That's what I meant for the Gruhas.
Ishvara lives. Okay. So Gruha is home, is what Kappagantula is saying. Okay. So, Gruhaschame, Sadaschame. Gruha is just a house of temporary residence for the priest. This Gruha for the indweller is a temporary residence as well. What we are talking about, the home, what makes you feel comfortable is associated with the ego mind. I feel comfortable with myself. What self are you talking? You feel comfortable in the context of a place, but comfort is associated with your own mental comfort. It is the indweller has nothing to do with a place of residence because he is moving on, and the time span he resides in this particular body is actually determined by the number of breaths that are already pre-programmed. This place comes with a number of breaths, air-conditioned thermostat, or number of air things are set, and then goes in, and when that number of times the breathing is over, boom, he leaves. That's it. Paying, if you pay for 3 nights, you will get 3 nights of residence. You paid for whatever number of breaths, you get that much of residence, and in that body, and then gone. Grihaschame. Sadaha, Sadaha, Sadaschame. A place where the divine ones are assembled. The place where you go do the service, where the divine is accepting in graciousness what you are offering. And this is what we are talking at Sadaschame. And in the context of this, Purodashashchame, Purodasha means these are prasad or rice cakes that are offered during the yajna. And I don't want to enamor you with all kinds of technical aspects. There is what is called bali that is offered through the yajna. And when they do that, this is the offering of the ego self at 8 different places around the Homakunda. Pavan, how many places?
Yeah, 8.
8. I specially called on him because this gentleman is doing every Saturday after Ekadasha Rudra Parayanam, Rudra Homam. After we finish the Parayanam, which is amazing. Thank you for doing that.
Sairam, I'm not the doer. Sairam, I have a thought on the home. So this is one of the speeches I listened to Swami, and he was saying that home is a place where you return to. As a people or a person, you want to get back to peace, or where the peace is. And as a human being, we always seek peace. And so wherever you go for shopping, you go for office or wherever, you finally return home. That's because that's where the peace is. So it's in the context is that we are the seekers of peace because we are peace ourselves. So home is where the peace is.
Nice, thank you, Sarama. That is true. There is Prashanti, there is Ashanti, and there is Vishranti. Hmm? Vishranti is one of the words for Shiva. Now I'm going, I was about to talk about that, but then I said, man, each of the words, if I do this, when will this yajna? A lot of people are already fatigued. And there is Ashanti, there is Prashanti, there is Vishranti. The Prashanti and Vishranti is one of the synonyms. We studied this during the Siva, Bhadram, Kshemam, Vishranti. And we talked about what is the place of restfulness, if you will. And there is a deeper context with all of that. But for that, in that state, there is absolutely nothing associated with the quote, what we are calling as, I am at peace at this place, in the context of the peace as an emotion. And on a lighter note, you truly want to return to home to peace and not pieces. But so the context of what we are doing as this Purodaha, offering 8 different places in the yajna from a ritual perspective. And then the Pachataha. Pachataha means where you're actually cooking. Avabrudhaha. This is called Avabrudha Snanam. What happens after the whole yajna is done? The Somayaji, there is the word Somayaji is a very beautiful word. It's a title given to people that have done this Soma Yajna. And they have to do certain number to be titled to that. Now it became a last name of people. Because maybe their four fathers, one of them did, and they got the title, and then everybody else by lineage got the title. This Avabrudha Snanam is, after it is all done, the Somayaji and the Somidamma, they're called husband and wife, they receive these pots where the water is put, and they get the bath from the Ritviks. This is called Avabrudha Snanam. Through service, every great person that is doing this service, they are all Somayajis. In their case, God is pouring His grace upon them. Avabrudha Snanam you get after service. You're wondering, physically I'm not doing this service, how this kind of thing happens to me, how am I getting the Avabrudha Snanam? If I don't go do this physical service, am I doomed? I am very old person, I can't go do the service. How do I get? Yes, the service that I'm talking about is not just physical. You can invoke this Avabrudha Snanam in yourself when you are able to completely have the mind dissolve. Sudha Sara Abhivarshini. Sudha Sara Abhivarshini. This Sudha Sara, in this moments of bliss and joy derived either through service, physically, or service that we are talking about at very many levels, there is a drip that falls. And again, please don't go look for this. I'm only describing on what is described as what these things are. When these words are mentioned in what we chant, Sudha Sara Bhivarshini. Where is this?
Lalita Sahasranam.
What is the full Sahasrarambuja Rudha Sudha Sara Bhivarshini? This is Avabrudha Snanam. Sahasrara Ambuja Arudha. Sahasrara Ambuja means lotus. Arudha. In this 1,000-petaled lotus that is at the Sahasrara is something that will make this Sudha Sara Abhivarishini. The whole body is drenched with this Sudha Sara, just like when the Somayaji is sitting and Somidamma after the Yajna, they pour the pot of water right on this place, and this whole body is drenched with that Kalasham waters that are being poured on them. That is the ritual, outer ritual. This is the inner ritual. Sahasraram Bhujarudha Sudha Sarabhivarshini. I don't want to bore you with all the details on how it happens, but it starts like a drip with one, like people say, oh, I got that experience, but I cannot exactly tell what the experience, but in that I felt that I'm completely in some state of ecstasy, which I cannot describe, no? Like a musician, like yesterday we were talking about this, like a musician, when they are in this ecstasy of that, then what happens? There is complete zoning out. A painter, an artist, and somebody who is trying to create something which is beyond the scope of just the ego mind, etc., then what happens? The ego mind separates and something gets created. Just a drip. Man, you are like, I am. Musicians can relate to that. How did I create that? Where did that come from? And they want to repeat that, and it doesn't happen. It happens only in the case of these incredible saints like Tyagaraja. It's a consistent experience. With thousands of krutis, each one of them is Sahasrarambuja Rudha Sudha Sara Vivarshini. Because they're not doing with their ego mind, you see. It's not that ego mind that is creating this music for labels, for albums, for this and that and all of that stuff. A Potana did not write Bhagavatam for the sake of publishing and getting all this kind of stuff. That's not the ego mind that is creating it. In Manujeshwaradhamulakichi, he says, I'm not creating this to give as a dedication to some king. Sri Kaivalya Padambu Cherutakunai Chimpinchadan Lokarakshaikarambaku Bhaktapalana Kala Samrambaku Danavodreka Stambhaku Kelilola Velasa Drugjala Sambhutanana Kanjata Bhavanda Kumbhaku Mahanandangana Dimbhakun. The first poem of Srimad Andhra Mahabhagavatam. Sri Kaivalya Padambu Cherutakune Chintinchadan. It's not about satisfaction of the ego mind and the ego self that these things are done. This yajna is done for the purpose of supreme sublimation. And in the context of that, Avabrudha Snanam occurs. And when that occurred, you realize it has occurred, And then you say Swaha, that doesn't belong to me. Swagakarascha me. Right now, what is happening is this Rudra Jnana Yajna every weekend is like a avabruddha snanam for this body. Swaha. Nothing remains. Swaha. Sorry, I'm 15 minutes over. Any questions, comments? By the way, when I was saying those things, if you're a musician creating something, don't feel bad. Again, like dana, dharma, yaga, yajna, all these things that are fundamentally experiences of the divine self within you. A dana is like a drip, a dharma is like a flow, a yaga is like a continuous flow, a yajna is downpour, downpour. There's nothing wrong getting a drip, because once you get that drip of experience, then you know that there is something that is present, that is an ecstatic experience. Connect to how that has happened, and you will realize that more and more and more that to pay vigil in thought, instinct, and action, everything that is happening, what is propelling it, and not get caught in it, which is propelled. Then you will experience the drip. There will be a drop, there will be a drip, there will be a flow, and then a downpour. And the downpour is nothing to do with us. That's coming from Sahasrarambuja Rudha, Sudha Sara Bhivarshini, Tatillata Samaruchihi, Shat Chakra Upari Samsthita. The experience of that is yajna. We'll have the next satsang at Sundays, and I really hope and pray that you're all joining the daily prayers, collective daily prayers. I really hope and pray that you are able to, those that are part of this yajna, I know most of you have been. This concluding 11 weeks of what we're doing as prayers is the yajna of offering to Bhagavan. That would conclude on the Easter Sunday. The intellectual understanding of these mantras is good, but that is not the only purpose of this yajna. I truly believe that in this current situation, what all Bhagavan has given us in 2020 and now and then what we're doing right now is his immense grace and compassion and love, or whatever you may want to call it. But for that, the mind would be so much divided into pieces. Let us bring it all together in his love. Jai Sai Ram. समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः
सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु
सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Thank you, Mantra Sara. You are so beautiful. Sai Ram.